I've talked about this in other videos, that if you look at the parables of Jesus, they're not just nice stories so that the farmers and the fishermen and the children could understand, simple stories so people can understand the kingdom of God. No, that's not actually it. A lot of times what they are simple. Anyone can understand them, but they frequently include a surprising element, a twist, some unexpected element that's meant to shock you or get your attention or turn upside down your ordinary expectations. And that's very true of this parable here, because he says, when you go to a marriage feast, don't take the place of honor, right? Instead, what do? Take the lowest place. Take the lowest seat, right? That way, he says, you won't end up being shamed, because if you take the high seat, the host might say to you, actually, I need you to move down the table to the bottom. Someone of more importance has come in. I don't know if this has ever happened to me. I've gone to these banquets where I'm speaking or something like that, and they'll say, here, come sit at table number 1. And I always feel a little nervous here. It's like, where's table 25? Because according to the gospel, you don't want to sit at the special people's table. You want to go and sit in the back of the banquet hall. Actually, as I'm thinking about this with this parable, this is the one parable Catholics take literally, right? Because if you go to a Catholic church, no one wants to sit in the front pew. Ever notice about that? It's very, very fascinating. Even if there's only 8 people in church, they're going to get 6 or 8 aisles back away from the altar. And maybe that's because we've all somehow imbibed this parable on a very deep, deep level. Go to the back pew. I'm a Catholic. I'm following Jesus' teaching in Luke chapter 14. In any case, that's not what people would do normally. Normally, there was a pecking order, a social pecking order, and whether it be maybe the priests or the scribes, or maybe if you're a member of the party of Herod, like a Herodian, if you're in the upper echelon of society, you take the high spot, not the low. Jesus flips that. That's the twist. Take the lowest seat. And when you do that, what will happen is the host will come and he will say to you, friend, go up higher. And then you will be honored in the presence of all, as opposed to being shamed in the presence of all. Now, this isn't just a nice piece of ethical advice about how to act at a banquet. As you know, Jesus' parables take earthly realities, but they're always about heavenly realities. They're always pointing forward to the nature of the kingdom of God. And usually if you want to see the meaning of the parable, you can go to the end. And at the end of the parable, it was standard in ancient Jewish parables for there to be what's called a nimshal in Hebrew, N-I-M-S-H-A-L, nimshal. The best English translation of this that I can think of is upshot, right? So what's the upshot of the parable? What's the point, so to speak? Usually you'll find the point at the end, not always, but usually. And here Jesus says, for everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. Now, in the parable, Jesus is talking about being humbled or exalted in the context of a banquet or a wedding feast. But if you know Jesus' teachings elsewhere, what will he use a wedding feast as an image of? The image of the kingdom of God. So for example, in Matthew chapter 22, Jesus actually says the kingdom of heaven is like a wedding feast that a king put on for his son. So the imagery there is of the joy of salvation, the joy of the world to come, the joy of the kingdom of heaven is really only comparable to the joy of a wedding feast. Right? So if you've ever been to a really great celebration at a wedding of a beautiful holy couple that are united in holy matrimony and the sacrament of marriage, and then you celebrating that sacramental union, it's awesome. It's amazing. You just feel overcome with joy, filled with joy. At least that's how it should be. Jesus says, well, that's what the kingdom is like elsewhere. So given those parallels elsewhere, what he's really talking about here is how people should act in the kingdom of God, right? So if you want to be exalted in the kingdom of God, what do you need to do? You need to act humbly now. You need to cultivate the virtue of humility now, so that you seeking the lowest place in this world, so that when the banquet of the kingdom comes, you'll be exalted.